Hello and welcome there to another episode of the Cliff Notes podcast, where we talk to manufacturing leaders and we find their way. Today I've been joined by Matt Lacey, who's the Sales and Marketing Manager at HV Wooding Limited. He's responsible for new and existing international client base from metal components within scientific, renewable, automotive and electric vehicles. How are you doing today, Matt?
Yes, good, thank you. Yeah, very busy, so can't complain.
No, I've been seeing all the work you've been getting on with and getting out. How have things been for the last year?
Yeah, it's been a busy time for everybody. We've been doing very well. We've kind of changed with the times, as it were, as to our client base. At the beginning of the pandemic, we got heavily involved in the ventilator challenge, alongside the likes of Rolls-Royce, Airbus, etc. So, the ventilator challenge presented some real opportunities for us. And following that, we've had a lot of opportunities with reshoring, which has been really positive. So, all in all, incredibly positive.
I've been reading some of your sort of case studies in the background on the business, and you seem to be very much experts in working with tolerances down to heads, width and below, working with clients like CERN. Is that sort of one of your specialisms of that refinement?
That's right, yes. Tight tolerances has been something we work with wire erosion, etc. We've been working with CERN for over 10 years now. So that was machining magnetic yokes, stainless steel collars for quadrupole magnets for Large Hadron Collider. So obviously with a project such as that, precision is key. So we work with the likes of CERN, making sure that the components are just as needed, manufactured in the right method, helping with selection of material. And that work with CERN's been ongoing now. So started a long time ago. Accuracy of 10 microns, between 10 and 50 microns, but we work on projects at the moment where it requires, for a dipole magnet, 7 microns tolerance. So, yeah, it's very interesting projects.
I appreciate that started like a good few years ago. I mean, is that the sort of a normal piece of work for you for working with these sort of tolerances, or what's a common client project?
I mean, the CERN is ongoing, absolutely, but common orders could be anything from busbars across all sectors, motor laminations, and just bespoke precision components. As a subcontract manufacturer, we don't have our own product, so we're working on prototypes and volume production of clients' own projects to draw in. But again, because we offer so many different types of manufacturing method and have the years of expertise in our team, we can really tailor what the client believes they want to be the best component, the optimized component to help with the budget and viability of a project.
So, I mean, apart from that sort of viability and price, I mean, is there a range of between volume work and prototyping and helping the client get more efficiencies out of it that you work with?
Absolutely. I mean, prototyping is something that we love to do. We love to see a new project come in. We're working on a lot of projects at the moment. The electric vehicle sector, for example, has been really strong at the moment. Big move towards electrics. So those sort of projects we love being involved in early. We can go across to volume manufacture, sometimes changing the method of manufacture as we go. But it's something that long term, a very strong sector for us.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen with some other partners we work with, there's a much fewer parts required for electric vehicles. But do you still see enough volume in the parts and the range that you're making?
Oh, absolutely. And as the technology is still young, a lot of companies producing these vehicles will be asking us for our advice. So we were able to guide at that stage towards what's most effective.
Is that helps with the wide range of different tooling and facilities you have in the shop?
Absolutely. Someone might come to us with a project they believe was suitable for a certain method, and just a few changes in tooling or can change the method entirely. So, getting involved in early stages really helps both the customers and ourselves to be able to produce long term at volume and at the right cost.
Mm-hmm. And is that what you've been seeing also with the UK leaving Europe and companies looking to reshore, that you've been bringing back those parts and can prove out the orders?
Absolutely. I mean, the reshoring has been very big for us. Obviously, manufacturing had a decline as people were going out to the kind of brick economies, as it were. But when COVID hit and as Brexit was approaching, there was an opportunity for us. This window of opportunity came where manufacturers, our clients, were worried about supply chain. Would there be border implications because of Brexit or because of COVID? So for the first time in a long while, they were considering reshoring even a small part of their manufacture back to the UK. And it gave us the opportunity really to present some of the benefits that are kind of long forgotten. It's very cost driven at first. But when they look at the benefits of delivery, they don't have to order in such huge quantities. The risk exposure for delivery, goods in transit for a long time, more likely to be damaged. Turnarounds as well, to be able to order something and it not take months to arrive. And if there is an issue, it can be dealt with quite quickly. Down to carbon footprint, so many different benefits on the delivery side. And then you go to issues such as quality. Even in the COVID times at the beginning, it's much easier to speak to another company over here and move a job forward. So many benefits that I don't think people really considered overpriced in a long time. And we had clients who thought they're making cost savings by using China and other places abroad. But when they looked at the minimum order quantity and the fact they had to store these components, it was cheaper and easier and more flexible to look at UK manufacture. And the feedback we've had has been amazing. The costs they perceived to be there weren't really there.
And so, I mean, whereabouts are you located to bring this back in?
We're located in Hythe, in Kent.
So you're located in Kent, but you service the whole of the UK, or you've got sort of wider than that as well?
Oh, internationally. We're about 30% on export. We haven't had any issues to date, really, since COVID and Brexit. We didn't really experience too many teething issues with either. Most of our export is on single loads. The initial teething problems seem to be when we're importing on a mixed load, so we're reliant on other people's paperwork being right. But after that initial hurdle, which I think we only had one small issue, we were quite lucky.
Sponsorship of this podcast has been brought to you by Holding Bay, the digital web agency. Holding Bay specialises in working with B2B companies like manufacturers to build better solutions and drive better sales funnels. So if you would like to build a web application or improve your branding and sales funnel, get in contact today. holdingbay.co.uk or call us on 01273 044 019. That's good. I mean, just to talk a bit more about import and export, has that been all right for your sort of supply chain of and getting in raw materials and stuff? Is that coming in from another country, or do you get most of your stuff from the UK?
Raw materials wise, we use a lot of copper, so that's imported. Obviously, throughout the pandemic, the price of copper went shooting up, but we do hold a good stock. So thankfully, not an impact on us, but it was something we had to be cautious about throughout.
Mm-hmm. And was you mentioning the working with single loads? Was that just your normal practice generally, or you'd found that was a better way of adapting to the new paperwork for export?
Most of our work was single load, but I think until the issues with import and export and Brexit was clear, it was certainly a kind of safety net for us that where possible, that is how we'd do business. But as things become clearer throughout the process, it's just something that will be reviewed as we go.
Mm-hmm. But you got happy customers still at the moment, so that's well done for you. I mean, with this sort of move to reshoring and valuing it, I mean, do you lead with a particular aspect of that value? Because you did cover before quite a few different aspects of the range of benefits that they can have.
Well, initially it was adopted as a safety net with the risk of supply chain. The conversations I was having with customers was along the lines of, if we had 20-30% of their orders in the UK, then we could obviously up production volume once that's already running, which received quite good reception. And it seems to be those customers that are then moving on to reshoring more and more of their work with us. We had a really nice job in from Spain, for example, with a new brooder press tool, and the work we've done there is leading to other work already. So I think people are now that window seems to be closing as things progress, but I think people are realising the impact of reshoring and how positive it can be for them.
So that way of being able to diversify and try out a new supplier and then work through and slowly just ramp that up when it's proven that the tolerances and the deliverability is there.
That's it. It's really the proof's in the pudding. Once we prove to the customer that, I mean, on the quality side, we've had excellent feedback from customers who have had issues before. It could be a small issue with a component they've found from overseas, but by the time they reorder, they've got a whole production halt. They've got to cease production for a while whilst they resolve. Whereas if it was UK based and it was an issue we can then resolve, you can get anywhere in the UK within the day. We can have the components made as soon as possible and shipped, delivered straight away. So long term, I think the benefits are there. You know, and these are not necessarily end products. These are going into another purpose. So the production stops can be quite expensive.
Totally. And has that fed into any changes that you've worked through with your sales and marketing as the sort of the business as a whole, as opposed to sort of individual customers?
Yes, I mean, sales and marketing's changed an awful lot. Virtual exhibitions have been very good for us. We've been to several, and again, it's a good way to still deal with customers in Europe and overseas. But certainly across the UK, whilst the pandemic was happening and real life exhibitions as such weren't happening, it was still a good way to introduce yourself and to raise your profile with clients. And there's also been a lot on LinkedIn and other mediums that have always been strong for us, but throughout the pandemic and Brexit, again, we're a lot stronger. And now we're moving to a case where we can go to exhibitions. We've got our next one booked, the battery show in Stuttgart, which will be quite exciting to actually be out in the real world again, as well as other online exhibitions. We've still got some more online exhibitions coming up that we're looking forward to. The next one's the Engineer Design Show, which is coming up. So it's just a different method of marketing. It's all going more so online than ever, more so digital. And I'm finding that really helps, especially on LinkedIn with referrals. Our customers know we do a good job, and it's very easy for them to pass on a recommendation on LinkedIn as they might not do in person.
Yeah, I can see that. There's much more of it's possible to do a much quicker and more seamless connection, and you haven't got to include a couple of hours of travel and arranging those meetings and making sure that people are available.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we were dusting down the exhibition stand last week, making sure it's all ready for the show in Stuttgart, and it's quite nostalgic bringing those out again after being locked down for so long. But I think people will attend these shows again. And I think it will be a different world we're entering. You know, companies have been collaborating a lot more since the pandemic started, and customers are much more happy to work together, which is always good. And I think from everyone being in the same boat, as it were, over that time, I think people are much more approachable now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was speaking on a previous show about how a lot of the sort of SMEs had been in the UK have been pulling together and sharing and be able to share each other how they've been adapting or exchange information and how to navigate a lot of this stuff. That it had been a sort of positive outturn for the sector and keep the things rolling.
Absolutely.
I mean, just digging into that a little bit more in terms of the events and stuff. Is it mostly that you then would set up sort of video calls, and you've been doing sort of sales meetings like over a video chat that you might have normally done in person?
That's right, yes. So the initial online exhibitions that started were a really good effort for the fact that it was something so new. But as they developed, it's been much easier to. I'm setting up a virtual exhibition at the moment. You can put not just your website on there, but downloadable brochure. You can click for online meetings, and it's much easier to exchange information. You don't need to add to the carbon footprint. You don't need to book a whole day out. You can speak to a client much easier, and I think there are long-term benefits. Although I look forward to the real exhibitions happening again, I think these virtual ones are something that will continue alongside for a long time.
I mean, have you still been able to have anyone come and visit your premises at the moment, or they're still sort of locked down, and so anyone who's sort of seeing their progress and their orders, it's all still having to be managed remote?
At the moment, it's remote. We've been very lucky throughout the pandemic, where we have had such measures in place here that we haven't been adversely affected. So we've erred on the side of caution there, but we are looking forward to showing customers again, because a lot of our customers don't realise quite how big we are as an operation, how many staff we employ, the technologies we've got here. When I started, I found we had a few customers that knew us for one thing. They might know us for busbars, and then they come down for a site visit and they see the scope of service. So really looking forward to inviting customers back down again. It's always an eye-opener for us and them to discuss other opportunities they didn't realise we could fulfil. So
no, I think that it does make sense. People have turned up for a meeting, and just even walking past other areas in a workshop can allow people to just get that sense of what might else be possible and open up future conversations.
Exactly.
And I mean, just to close out on the growth and the pandemic and stuff. I mean, how's that been for the business? Have you been able to keep everyone on board, or have you been sort of adding more people, or alternating the shifts and stuff to maintain distancing and the new rules and regulations?
Well, distancing hasn't been too much a problem due to the type of manufacturing equipment we have here. There's always been a distance anyway between most of our team. We are recruiting again now, which is good. It's not the sort of company where people can really work from home, bar a few of the office staff. So we've already just roped in and gone with it. Since the ventilator challenge kept us very busy at the beginning, and then customers who were a little worried about supply chain were stockpiling and ordering a lot of components at the time. And now we're seeing a lot through our investments before the budget. Where some of these investment opportunities were mentioned, we're already investing quite heavily in press tools and other areas. So we've always been growing, and we've always had enough work for our staff to continue throughout the pandemic, thankfully.
That's very good. And I mean, speaking of sort of investment on a sort of broader scale, have you been able to appreciate any of the sort of the government and the country's investment that's already happened, or going forward, what you'd like to see that the government could do to help the sector?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the investment budget, the investment opportunities pre-budget, where it got raised to $1 million, we utilise that absolutely. We've always been a company that likes to invest in what we can offer, and technologies and R&D behind it. So the announcement when that happened was another opportunity for us to really look at moving forward. The sectors that are still growing, the electric vehicles, the renewables, wind farms, these are all areas we've always been involved in, but it allows us to catapult ourselves forward more. So as the technology progresses, we stay ahead. So the investment is just going to continue from our end. I'd really hope that it continues from the government's end as well. This isn't a short-term measure to get the economy back on track. So I think this is one of the key areas that the country needs for growth.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, there's been some sort of positive news, and I feel some regular conversations I've had with other people in the sector is that there's just been this move in the last few years that people have sort of building up more of a head of steam and feeling more positive about the growth. We've just got to also be able to get through this sort of unprecedented time of and hope that it keeps building after that, and people are up and running and needing all the parts and materials, and that airlines and pieces are also up and running and able to keep putting in those orders.
That's it. So some sectors obviously have done well, as we've said. Other sectors, such as aerospace, obviously have really struggled. So hopefully the government can offer them some support. But manufacturing is central to the economy. 2/3 of our R&D, 45% of exports, 15% of business investment, and 2.7 million jobs, high-value jobs as well, above the economic average. These are all areas where the government really needs to back us. We need to make sure that we remain with Europe, working alongside Europe, despite Brexit, making sure we have the negotiations continue there long term, making sure that the border controls are invested within, so we haven't got too many supply chain issues. But I think so far, especially with the announcements of the budget, there are benefits there to be seen. We all expected the rise in corporation tax. That was really good that it was held off. So I think that the inward investment is the way forward that the manufacturing industry needs.
Taking on this sort of investment and this sort of mood for growth and improvement, are there any particular sort of challenges or areas of interest that business is looking to invest and grow in for your customers in the next 2 or 3 years?
Yes, power electronics, machines and drives is an area we're very interested in. Anything to do with the renewables and EV sectors. We're working on some bonded lamination technologies at the moment. Number of projects that I'd love to discuss without NDAs, but it's just making sure that as technology change, we're ahead of it, that we can be involved in the early stages and kind of guide processes to make sure that we remain as the UK as key suppliers.
I mean, just to keep that rounding out, it's been great talking with you today. I mean, do you have any sort of a current favourite tool, favourite book, or something we could share with the listeners?
I don't know about favourite tool or book, but I think it's more gadget based for me, and that will be my Google Home, because that kind of reminds me of my next Zoom calls, podcasts, meetings, any news mentions for the company. I think I couldn't live without that. So that's the one for me.
I mean, have you yourself been based a lot at home then for the last year?
Well, I actually started with the company about 2 or 3 weeks before the initial lockdown. So it was a bit of a learning curve for me in that respect there. I worked from home for probably about 3 weeks. And then it was a return to the office. It wasn't saying that long term being in manufacturing you can necessarily do from home. But again, it's different times now, and I think very different way of business as it was when I walked into it, from the sales and marketing side to the sales side to operations. So exciting times.
Mm-hmm. Drawing on your experiences and learning some new ones. Yeah, no, that's great. So just to, as we're bringing the interview to a close here, is there anything else you'd like to share that you've been working on recently, or any successes for the business?
Yes, we're working on numerous projects at the moment, but the exciting ones for us, as I've mentioned, with electric vehicles, are not just cars, but we've been working on motorbikes, military vehicles, aeroplanes, farm machinery, buses, trains, all sorts. So it's really exciting for us to be involved in those early stages of projects, and I think that is where the future lies, and the renewables and the wind farms. So any inquiries on those lines are always welcome. And just hoping that other sectors such as the aerospace can get back up and running, and with our support move forward.
That's great. And so people working in this area that need some parts making. What's the best way of getting in touch with your business or yourself?
Okay, so our website is hvwoodin.co.uk. Otherwise, if you find us on LinkedIn, you keep up to date with our work across different sectors, regular news posts, etc. on there.
That's great. We'll put this all in the show notes for people who didn't have a pen handy or out for a walk while they've been listening. And it's been great for you joining today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us again today on the Cliff Notes podcast, where we asked a manufacturing leader and found their way. If you'd like to get in contact with myself or the guest, you can do so on the website cliffnotespodcast.com, or we'd like to hear your feedback and keep in the conversation on LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter. On Twitter, you can contact us on @CliffNotesPod. It's been great for Matt and yourselves to join us again, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again soon.